Hey everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm doing my December wrap ups. I almost didn't film this, or actually almost forgot to film this, but I was looking through like my YouTube channel and then also people filming their wrap ups. I'm like, oh shoot, I actually forgot to film it. I debated about filming it or not, but I think the OCD in me felt like I need to do it because it did it every month for 2022, so I want to keep that up. So for the month of December, I was very fortunate to read 5 books despite the busy holiday season. Most of my books, except one, were actually holiday or Christmas themed, just because I was participating in Tangible Reads Holiday Hackathon. I unfortunately didn't finish all the prompts that was part of the hackathon, but it was fun because I read some books that I honestly normally wouldn't uh, go towards, and some of them were pleasantly surprising. And as always, before I go into my wrap up, I always appreciate it if you like my content to please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have read any of these books, I'd love to hear what you thought down below in the comment section. My first book that I finished in December was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I gave this book an easy 5 out of 5, and this book is really heavy, but I think really important. Basically, Chanel Miller, she was known as Jane Doe for a while, and I think a BuzzFeed article came out in 2015 where it was a letter that she wrote as a victim to her assaulter, Brock Turner. And what happened was she went to a party at Stanford campus, and then she was sexually assaulted and found by two people who were biking by, telling Brock Turner to stop what he was doing. And basically, this memoir is Chanel retelling her experience from the assault and the years after, going through court, going through the judicial system in the US, and how it was really horrific to relive it. Not just the idea of just being assaulted, but just going to court. And yes, you are fighting for Brock Turner, the assaulter, to be tried against and charge him, but like because he has his own defense team, like they really scrutinize everything that you did that day, everything you did in your past, and everything you did since. And this book really shine a light on, like, I have a lot of empathy for people who don't want to press charges or don't want to come forward because literally every part of your life is exposed. And I really commend victims who do come forward because it's not an easy task and it's not something that you just say, and even with evidence that's enough. Like, it goes through years of trial. And this book was just so great to read. It was heavy because it really opened my eyes on what it means to be a victim of sexual assault, if you're male or female. And just like I said, it's not just when it happens right away, but the years after and the ripple effects on have not just on you but your community, your family, and that kind of stuff. I'm not a parent myself, so I don't know how young is too young to talk about these topics, but I really think this book would be at least a great discussion point for people in high school, entering college, at that age where people start using substances like alcohol or weed or any other party drugs. Because when you're not in the right state of mind, you might make wrong choices. And just having an idea of consent and knowing what's respectful to other human being, I think is really important. If you have the capacity to read this book, I really recommend it. Just know it is a heavy book, but I think it's really, really important to read. The second book I read was part of my holiday hackathon prompt. It was a mystery, specifically a murder mystery. It was Hercules Poirot's Christmas by Agatha Christie. I gave this book a 3 out of 5, and honestly, it was great. It was my first Agatha Christie book, and I think I'll be a fan. I don't think I'll consistently read her books all the time, but I think every now and then, if I want a break from my reading, her books seemed quite short and kind of easy to read. And like, it was my first time reading a classic whodunit murder mystery, and now that I have, I'm like, wow, I can see this inspired all the time in movies and TV shows, and I just love it. So basically, the premise is we meet the patriarch of the house, Simone, and he's inviting all his family and like close friends to his house because he has an announcement to make. And we hear all these like snippets of drama, like, oh, he wants to change his will, who's the money going to, blah blah blah. And of course, all of his kids, adult kids, have a say on how the money or the estate should be divided, but he's still alive until, of course, he is murdered, and we have to figure out who did it. I love his book. I thought it was fun. I recently watched Glass Onions, which is also a whodunit murder mystery on Netflix, and yeah, I can see a lot of inspiration from Agatha Christie. She is a very prolific writer. The next book I read is also a holiday theme book. It was called The Plight Before Christmas by Kate Stewart. I surprisingly gave it a 4 out of 5. I think because I was just in the mood for like an easy holiday read, and just because I went in knowing that like, hey, I know what I'm going to expect. This book was basically a cheesy romance where everything works out in the end. We meet Kate. She's in her like late 30s and she's single, and I think she just got like snubbed for a promotion at work, and she's just on her way to her family cabin in like a smaller town where she just have like a classic Christmas. And then of course her brother brings his new coworker for Christmas, who happens to be her like college sweetheart, where they had like a really bad breakup. You can probably guess where the story goes, but it was just such a fun read, and you know, the characters were a bit older, which I kind of relate more to, and it was just really fun to see the family and all their antics. And I really hope this book is actually picked up to be a Netflix romantic comedy, because I think it's a lot of potential for a lot of like physical humor to bring to the big screen. The next book I read is A Redbird Christmas by Fanny Flagg. I give this also surprisingly to myself a 4 out of 5. This is a very nice, cozy holiday book you'll probably read in 1 or 2 sittings. We meet Oswald T. Campbell. He is in his 50s or 60s. He lives in Chicago, and he has a very hacking chronic cough. And his doctor says that he cannot survive another season of winter in Chicago because of his lung health. So he decides to move to this like really small town, I think in like Florida or something, where it costs like $50 a month to rent, where he meets this small town and all these characters, and like all these things start happening where it's very lovely, and Oswald becomes like this different man, you know, and like there's like a little girl in this town that's kind of like wild, but she becomes adopted by the town. And why this book is called Redbird Christmas, because like the local general store, there's a man who has a pet bird who's like a red bird and kind of like iconic to the town. I don't really want to spoil the book, but it's just like a very lovely book to read. And if, you know, next holiday season you want an easy book, this is one I would recommend. And the last book I read for December before the holiday things all started coming together was You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince by Timothy Janofsky. Unfortunately, I gave this a 2 out of 5. The genre of this book was my prompt for the holiday hackathon, were the queer representation. So I thought it was cool because it's something that I normally wouldn't gravitate towards. So basically, we meet Matthew Prince. He is of from a very rich family, and he lives off his like parents' money. One day he decides to buy an island for himself, and it's the last straw. So his parents are like, Matthew, you've gone too far. We're going to send you to your grandparents' small town to like lie low while we deal with the PR mess. And of course, Matthew goes to a small town where his grandpa's a professor, and his grandpa is also housing one of his students. And Matthew Prince is also like 2021, and for whatever reason, you know, Matthew Prince is used to his big apartments in New York that's paid for by his parents and his lavish lifestyle. But when he goes to a small town, he has to not only share a room with Hector, but he also has to share bunk beds. So as I said, it's a queer romance. So Hector and Matthew, at first are haters, but you know, not to spoil, they become lovers, and it's just a very lovely book. I think it would be a great Hallmark movie. And the reason why I didn't like this book, even though it was, I would say, similar vibes to A Plight Before Christmas, which I gave it a 4 out of 5, is because the characters are very like unlikable and unredeemable, and like the change of heart was too sudden and wasn't very logical. Whereas with The Plight Before Christmas, the romance was more believable with how they met and their history. That was all the books I read for December. Thanks for being patient with me for uploading this like almost mid-January, but the OCD in me just wanted to wrap up my December very nicely. So in my wrap-up playlist, I have like all videos for each month. I always appreciate you guys watching till the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!